You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dini Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
I do want to tell you guys, though, that you deserve much joy in life. What, Dini? Yeah. Now give yourself that joy by giving love, encouragement, understanding, and kindness to others. Let go of the need for cheap, predictable, contrived drama. Make room for rich, authentic, fulfilling joy. Open yourself to all of the possibilities for elevating your life and the lives of others. Allow your actions, your caring, your joy to bring those possibilities into reality. You deserve to live in joy, and so do all of those around you. It is certainly not a free ride, yet it is well within your ability to create. Feel the love that constantly pulses within you. Renew your commitment to do something good and meaningful with all its positive power. So, my friends, make joy your priority, your perspective, the flavor you add to reality. All of life deserves to experience the joy that you have to give. So let's see, let's look here. We have about 22,000 listeners online with us on the phones here. We have a few in the chat room. Now, you can't see each other in the chat room until you send a message. It's just some kind of privacy feature. I don't know why that's there, but yeah, you won't be able to see the people until they actually chat.
You're live in the mix. Let's get this started.
Yo, it feels so good to be back with you guys once again. So one time for my people who are indigos and starseeds, and 2 times for my people who are vegans. We are averaging over 34,000 plus listeners, and we've been at this for 3 solid years. I appreciate all you guys who've been rocking with the kid on this journey, and we're still growing, baby. It is all because of you, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, spirituality, business, literature, art, movies, and research in every aspect. And we want to allow you an opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on the show, from Grammy Award-winning artists, nominees, to actors, comedians, CEOs, technology geniuses, visual artists, from authors to professors and aliens. Or people who think they're aliens. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Come on our show and talk to me. So check it out. To book an interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do, and together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people who should hear it. So let's create something incredible. And with that, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Vigilantes Radio. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in and being a part of our audience family. You know the number to dial. It's 701-801-9813 to connect with us or our guests, or you can hop in the mix directly from my website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com. Scroll over to the Vigilantes Radio tab and slap that go live button, and you'll be right here live in the mix with all of us or in the chat room. So feel free to shoot over some questions to ask our guests while they are here. And as always, all episodes are available for free download. You can grab that from Spreaker.com/only1media group, iTunes, YouTube, the app called Podcast Addict, or over at our website. And that goes for every single episode that we've ever aired.
Well, you guessed it. Tonight's episode is the Pinkerton-Raid interview, and I'm your host, Dini-Mussolini. I'll spare you guys the announcements because I don't have many, except that I will be out in Hollywood, Burbank, Van Nuys, San Diego, King and Country, March the 3rd through the 6th. Me and the band will be out there doing our thing, 2-hour concert over in Hollywood at a place called Salitas. So if you out there, we would love to meet you and greet you. Purchase your tickets over at songkicks.com/no longer the hero. And of course, we'll be doing giveaways next week because we want to see as many of your beautiful faces as possible. You know what? The show may be free. Yeah, we got some cool things to show you guys. So anyway, like I said, not many announcements. Actually, I do, but I won't bore you guys with that. Yeah, you can catch all the announcements on the website. Surprise, there's 22,000 of you guys that called in instead of texting, right? Nah, proud of you guys. So I know you guys are here for Pinkerton Raid and not for little old Dini. Of course not. It has to be for Pinkerton Raid. So without any further ado, let's jump head first into this interview. So I just want to say welcome Pinkerton Raid. Big year coming up for your band, no doubt about it. You guys have a brand new album, Tolerance Ends, Love Begins. That was released on the 7th of this month in February, and a gang of performances ranging from February to April. I checked the website out, it's all there, and I suggest you guys do the same. You can even find the link in the description of the show, of course, as we always try to plug everything in, because we are in the business of promotion, baby. So we got to do that, right? Have to spread the love. But overall, it is all just a convenient timing, or is the band... Well, before I even ask that question, let's welcome them to our humble show here. Welcome, Pinkerton Raid. How are you guys doing?
Hey, good. Thanks, Dini. Hey, this is Jesse.
Jesse James, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Man, you got a cool name. You have to be a super badass to have a name like that.
Yeah, I didn't always think so. I thought it was so dumb when I was a kid. My mom says she didn't even think about it. She just liked the way the name sounded together. But when I got older, I embraced it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you have the look, too.
What's that?
I said, and you have the look, too. You look like Jesse James, yeah, man.
I don't know if I scare anybody in a dark alley, but we'll see.
All right, man. So let's dive into this interview. I know it has to be a very, very exciting time because, man, you guys are busy. All these shows lined up. Yeah, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's really exciting. We're playing as much or maybe more than we ever have in a short stretch, and that's it's really fun because the band just gets really tight, playing a lot, and it makes the shows that much more fun.
So is that a convenient timing, or is the band more focused on making its mark this year? I mean, there's so many shows.
Well, I think we just we felt like this was the best record we'd ever made, and we saw that as we were working out the arrangements of all the songs in our rehearsals. We were just feeling better and better about it, and just really wanted to give it the best ride we could in terms of promoting it and getting out there. It's, as far as I can tell, just getting out on the road is still the best way to get in front of people that haven't heard of you. You can rely on social media and hope that your friends will share and pass things along. But you don't have that much control over that. All you can do is just keep posting things and remind them. But I think it feels a little like we have a little more influence on getting people to know our music if we just get out there, and it gives us more things to promote, I think, in different places. It's not only that you're going to show up at a new venue, but there's local media, blogs, local radio, college radio, that you can approach all of those when you go on the road, and they're probably not going to be interested if you're not playing in their hometown. But if you're going there, then you got a reason to make them pay attention or ask them to pay attention.
Definitely. All right, so let's talk about that a minute. So the songs from Tolerance Ends, Love Begins, what story will they tell us?
Yeah, it's my personal narrative going through the breakdown of a marriage, and trying to make sense of that, trying to understand myself in it, trying to understand what love is or what love is supposed to be. Grieving that, mourning it, and trying to find some hope in it again. So it's kind of this arc of pain and dealing with that pain and despair, and then trying to find hope again toward the end. Tolerance Ends. That language just comes from a traffic sign, a sign on the side of a country highway. Basically, is intended to tell truck drivers that they need to get the truck, a big rig truck, off of one of these like secondary country highways and take it onto a big sturdy interstate highway. So basically it's just guidance for where the truck route is. But I would go by this sign all the time. I used to be a crime reporter for a newspaper, and so I'd have to drive this way up to the courthouse just about every day to look at records and whatever. And so I'd always see this sign, and I was going through this breakdown of my marriage, and the language I just found so intriguing. Tolerance Ends. It seemed like a strange way to direct a truck driver to use a different road. It's just like this kind of heavy language, and So I just, sort of stewed on it for a while. And one of the songs I ended up writing for the record was by that name, Tolerance Ends. And then the more that I started thinking about what the record meant as a collection, I just kept coming back to this idea of shallowness versus depth. And how tolerance is this kind of shallow, flimsy sort of way of people relating to each other. It's sort of like the least common denominator. We put up with each other, and we sort of accept or tolerate differences, but it doesn't suggest any kind of real relationship where there's give and take, or where I have to sort of change my way of being to make room for you, or you have to change your way of being to make room for me. It's just like, well, let's just sort of agree to disagree, or let's just try to get along. But you don't have to really get to understand another person or really be known by another person if your relationship is just about tolerance. So I just started thinking about that, and in trying to sort of see if there was something that held all these songs together, and it was that idea of love being a deeper kind of way of relating to each other, where I have to allow myself to be changed in a relationship, and not simply to put up with you accept me or I accept you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of what the record's about.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I just have one question though.
Yeah.
Is the album like, I know you said it's about marriage. Is it about like a marriage ended in a divorce or a loss?
Yeah, divorce. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So it's a divorce. And you know, and then by the end of it, you know, it's interesting because it's 9 songs, and you know, you could write 9 songs about a period of a few weeks in a person's life going through something this intense. But in my case, you know, it kind of these songs kind of stretch across a longer time period, years even of trying to figure out all of this. And so, you know, by the end, I've found new love, and that's, you know, that's the source of hope, or one of the sources of hope that you get to by the last couple of songs.
Okay, definitely. This is definitely probably the album to my life story, right?
Oh, is that right?
I have like a similar experience, years of tolerance, and then, you know, the bridge falls, and now we back on the horse again.
Yeah,
cool.
Well, that means a lot. I'm glad you could relate to it. That's what you want as a songwriter, for someone else to see themselves in the stories.
Definitely. So now I have to go purchase this album. So I'll do that in the show live. Is it on Amazon?
It is. Yeah. Amazon, iTunes, anywhere you might look for it, you should be able to find it.
All right, cool. I love Amazon. So at the end of the show, I will purchase the album on air. And I encourage all you guys to do the same, especially if you can relate. Even if you can't relate, there's some great music, I tell you. All right, so Jesse, how does finishing this record, though, and I know this is very important for a songwriter and singer such as yourself, so how important is it for you to provide a sense of closure, or does it? Or will the next album be a continuation?
You know, it's interesting. I think it's hard. I don't know if I fully understand closure on a personal level. You know, I have kids. I have kids with my first wife, and so we're co-parenting, and there's a sense in which like we sort of have to deal with a lot of the same old issues that we had dealt with when we were married. So there's, you know, I'm still sort of living in some of those stories in certain ways. But I would say that I do have a sense of artistic kind of closure about that intense period of fragmentation and breakup. I'm not sure that's something I really am interested in writing about anymore. I feel like I've said what I had to say, and it's not even about saying it as much as exploring it for myself in trying to write the poetry that ends up being a song. And so you know, maybe it's an artistic kind of closure in the sense that I just found myself wanting to write about the world that's outside myself now, outside of my own experience, and watching what's happening in the world. I find, you know, we've been working on the next record, and I find myself writing a lot about landscapes, you know, a lot about the earth and what I can see in it, a lot about the environment, but in a really specific way, writing about like power lines going through trees or windmills that I see driving through the Midwest. So I think that's a kind of closure in that I feel as an artist having moved beyond this personal crisis and a paradigm shift in my life in looking at bigger issues.
Definitely. So I could relate to that as well, except that I'm the opposite. I moved on personally, but artistically I haven't. I'm still writing those particular songs. And,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they sound good to me. It's the best music to me. But
yeah. Well,
So,
if it's still fruitful, then you can't leave that gold, that vein of gold in the mountain. You know what I mean? You gotta try to dig it out until it's not there anymore.
definitely. All right, man. So maybe you can help me with that later on down the lines. So, on the same line of that, what was particularly important about recording this album? Like getting this energy out, approaching and performing these songs in a cohesive unit for you on a personal level.
Yeah. Well, I just think that because there were, I would say most of the songs, better than half of the songs we've had, I had written probably back 8-9 years ago when I was going through that divorce. But, I had a lot of other songs as well that I had written and was writing around that time. And I had the sense that in this certain batch of songs that it wasn't quite ready yet. And so we kept playing and experimenting with those songs in different formats with different personnel in the band. Because I knew that what I had was the equivalent of probably a double album. And we actually, before we made our second record, 3-4 years ago, we put it out about 2 years ago, I guess. We actually talked about maybe this should be a double album because it had enough songs. We were looking at 16, 17 songs probably. And we just ended up deciding that we were going to just split it up and make 2 albums over, the period of a couple of years. So, even when we thought we knew what those songs were going to be, we still put it off for another couple years after that. So all that to say, we really worked these songs and reworked them. And I think one of the things that happened is my brother and sister and I, my brother Steven and sister Katie, are kind of core members of this band, and we went out on the road as a trio. We didn't have anything new. I think our second album was probably a year old by then, but we had some friends who were going on tour, Lowland Hum, they're called, and they were going to a lot of the cities in the Midwest that we have enjoyed going to. That's been sort of one of our go-to touring areas. So we kind of hopped on that tour, and we started figuring out how we were going to play these songs as a trio. And we'd always kind of relied on a lot of layering in terms of how we built songs. We just layered a lot of instrumentation in order to create big dynamics, and we couldn't do that as a trio so much, so we had to figure out another way, and so what it did is it forced us to create a lot of empty negative space, a lot of silence, hard stops to sort of mimic the feeling of a big dynamic change when you've only got 2 or 3 instruments, and so it made us start to play together in a really tight kind of way, and we liked what was happening. And so then when it came time to think about actually making the record, that was the template. We took that really kind of rhythmic feel and just then applied the instrumental layering on top of that. So it just gave this record a lot more energy, I think, and a lot more of a percussive feel than anything we had done before. And I think that's what we were and are just really excited about, that to see, all these years of experimenting and finding some things that we really liked as ways to present the songs, and then just getting in and capturing that. I think it captures a lot of our development over the past few years, and that's so I would say more than even just to capture like this moment in my own personal narrative. I think what I'm really excited about is that we've captured this our progress as musicians and how we make records and how we make songs.
The rapper 50 Cent, are you familiar with 50 Cent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He once said that, and this really stuck with me, he said, I go through pain just so that I can entertain you guys. So with that being said, despite any pain that may come with this record, and even for myself, listening to older songs, I kind of feel some type of way. But this is an open question to you to answer however you like. What is the best part of having such concrete history on a record? Aside from the fact that the songs are awesome to listen to, of course, is the album that you guys did something that you can truly enjoy on a personal level?
Yeah, that's funny. Sometimes I think it's hard. I find it hard to listen to my own music after it comes out. Mainly, I think because you've listened to the songs thousands of times by the time you actually release them, because you're listening so carefully after the tracking and trying to make sure that you're happy with all the parts, and then there's mixing, and you're listening to the mixes and making sure you're happy with them, and then the mastering phase, and so honestly, I'm always kind of sick of the songs by the time they come out because I just spend so much time with them. So then I got to give it some space and let my brain rest and let my ears rest. And when I go back to it, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of what I hear. But then on the other hand, I got I'm remarried now, and I've got kids, and sometimes I'll have to go to YouTube or something and post or get a link to post one of our videos or song or whatever onto some social media. So I'll go get it, and then it just starts playing. And then somebody walks in the room, and maybe my wife walks in, and I'm I feel kind of silly, embarrassed. Oh, my song is playing. I'm listening. Yeah, I just sit here listening to my own music, I think it captures what we set out to do, and what we worked really hard. One of the things that was different about this record is that we went and tracked it live.
Oh, wow.
So we got a studio that could accommodate room for 10 different isolation booths. Mm-hmm. So everybody's amp could be isolated, and we had horns in a different ISO booth, vocals in a different ISO booth. Each acoustic instrument needed its own isolation, and so we in theory we could have gone back and replaced parts by isolating them if we had wanted to. We actually didn't do very much of that, but that's what we wanted that option. But what that meant is that the preparation was just really intense, because we had to nail down all of our arrangements before we got there, and so we were just doing just these really intense rehearsals and listening really carefully. We had 3 and sometimes 4 guitars playing at the same time, and it's not that easy to pull that off in our rehearsal spaces where they're not enormous, so it gets fairly loud pretty fast, and you got to do significant mixing just to rehearse well in that space, so that you can understand how the guitars are interacting with one another, and who's stepping on who, and whether it's actually working, or if what you need to take out here in this part of the song. Anyway, the point is we did a lot of pre-production to try to get ready for it, and so by the time we got to the studio, we were we know what we're going to do, we need to execute it. And can we trust everybody to nail their part? Because we're trying to do this live, and we'll do it. We'll take 3 or 4 takes, 5, 6 takes if we have to. But if somebody's not holding their weight, then we're going to be here all day trying to record one song. I think it's very satisfying to have tried that, which is not an easy thing to do, and we did it, and it ended up sounding the way we wanted it to. So that's really exciting.
Awesome. And you answered my next question. So I'm gonna ask you though, which is cool. It's cool. It means you know your stuff, man, and you're very professional, and I very, very appreciate that.
Okay.
Were there any favorite moments or memories from the recording sessions? And we love stories, so if you have a few, please tell us some.
Yeah. So this is pretty cool. We rented out the studio because it's called the Fidelitorium. It's in Kernersville, it's a little town between Winston-Salem and Greensboro, North Carolina, but our producer and engineer had their own studio in Durham, where we live. Mark Simonson's the producer, and Tom Canova is the engineer. And they, their studio wasn't big enough for us to do all that isolation like I talked about earlier. So we got this studio out there that could accommodate us. Also had this giant live room for the drums. I think something like 20-something foot ceilings, which was fantastic for getting a lot of room noise resonance for the drums. But so the first day we got through, I think we got through 2 or 3 songs, and we were really trying to finish, I think, 5 of them the first day, because we had our horn section there, and we were trying not to keep them for the whole 3-day period. And so we were trying to bang out all the songs that had horns on them that first day. And then we got, I want to say it was about halfway through maybe we got a take or 2 into the 3rd song, and then the power went out. And we thought that we had done something, because it wasn't our studio. It belonged to somebody else, and it wasn't our engineer's studio either. So he knew the guy who had built it, and he'd worked for him, so he sort of knew how it was set up. But I sort of take a lot of pressure on myself to try to organize everybody and make sure we know what we need to do, where we need to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so, to get 10 musicians out there an hour and a half away, and make sure we're going to accomplish what we wanted to do, I was feeling the pressure. And then the power went out. And, Tom is trying to figure out, he's brilliant when it comes to wiring and electronics and sound and all of that. So, he's trying to figure out, okay, at what point is which of these breaker systems, because this is like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And so it's got all this electronic kind of protection on it if something goes wrong, lightning strikes, whatever, not so that everything doesn't get fried. So Tom's going through all of the sort of layers of protection on it to figure out, okay, where did this go wrong? And, I'm kind of devastated. I'm like, okay, we're never going to get these horns done. These guys they don't want to be here tomorrow. And I was just feeling it. So I just had to go play guitar and start working on a different song or just try to distract myself. Everybody else, my brother and sister and the rest of the band nobody feels things quite as intensely as I do. So they were like, all right, we're going out for tacos. So they all went out. They found this real authentic taco place where, they're butchering the meat right there in the restaurant. And they were really excited about that. And so as it ended up, finally, after Tom went through all this process, trying to figure out what was going on. He ended up just calling the power company, Duke Energy, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a power outage in the neighborhood. So, you know, it was just like a normal power outage. I thought the world was falling apart, and you know, it came on, and we lost a couple of hours. And, you know, everyone was right to just go get tacos, but I just, you know, had to be by myself and try to find some peace and not be so freaked out about it. Then, like, I think it was probably it must have been that night, because so one of the things about this record is it sort of grew up in the context of a few of us, especially my sister Katie and me, doing a lot of like leading people in singing. We do some church music, and I do this sing-along series at bars where it's sort of like a cover gig, except we provide lyrics and people sing along. So it's like real well-known songs, and some of them are church like hymns, but some are just classic pop songs, but songs that are built for people to sing along. So, but I just get a lot of joy and energy out of that, and so it actually affected the way that I arranged a lot of these songs, and so there are a couple of them. One is Ghost in My Bed, and one is called Deeper Than Skin, and they both have these like kind of shout along chorus kind of parts. And so, you know, because we had this 10-piece band plus a producer and engineer and an assistant engineer, then, you know, we basically had a choir, enough people to make a choir. So it was probably 1 or 2 in the morning, and we knew that we wanted to capture the feeling of like a big crowd shouting these sing-along choruses. And so, you know, we had Tom just like sort of placed mics all around this giant drum room in really strategic places. I don't know how many mics he had. I want to say like 7 or 8 of them. And then, you know, there were like 12 of us in there all singing, shouting really these like nonsense lyrics that really make those 2 songs. So that was one of my favorite moments. You know, you can do that, but I mean, I could sing in different octaves, or I could harmonize with myself. I could make myself sound like a choir using technology, but it was way more fun to have 12 of us just singing around the room with a bunch of mics, and it's just these really joyful kind of shout along choruses. You know, mostly no words that anyone really has to know. It's just like ba 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 ba, that kind of thing. But that was really fun. I think we had this great musician, Wilson Green, who so one of the things that happened too, getting ready for this studio, is that the guy that I thought was going to be the bass player had to bail on it. He actually plays with us now in our live show, but he was in grad school at the time, and had thought he'd be able to do the sessions, but had too much going on in school, and so I ended up tracking the bass, but I had developed these banjo parts, and so like when we were getting ready for the studio, I had to figure out, well, are we going to get someone else to track bass, or do I hand off these other parts to somebody? And I ended up finding my friend Wilson, who plays with a band called Look Homeward, some friends of ours. He's toured with another like Americana band called Mipso from here, they're a pretty big name from North Carolina, and he's on the road now with a band called American Aquarium. Wilson's this really, really gifted musician, and so he was available to play some guitar, some banjo and some guitar actually, and I kind of had these templates for parts that I wanted, and he just took them and ran. And I think one of my favorite things about the recording process is that even though we'd done all this work to sort of nail down the arrangements and just tighten the screws on it, there were still moments, especially with Wilson, because we hadn't practiced together as much, and because, you know, I just trusted him to do something really cool with it, but I didn't totally know what that was going to be until I heard the finished product after we were done tracking, and so there were just moments of, you know, just little, I mean, it might even be just a couple of notes that I wasn't expecting in a really playful moment of a song that just made me smile, and it wasn't anything that I had planned on. So, you know, it was cool to have it really planned out, but also to just be open to what might come within that structure that could be a surprise.
Okay, definitely, man. Cool story. So how many instruments can you play?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I feel comfortable on bass, guitar, and banjo. I mean, I've tracked and overdubbed some keyboard here and there, but I'm not a great keyboard player. But, you know, I tend to fill in. I try to get bass is sort of my main instrument, or it has been for most of my life. But I find it a little bit limiting when I'm trying to perform and sing. You know, I have to either sacrifice on the vocals or on the bass, because sometimes the rhythms are just sort of fighting each other. So I've been moving away from that and just playing a lot more guitar and banjo when we perform now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So from your perspective, and I know we talked a lot about the personal side of things, but what makes Tolerance Ends, Love Begins accessible and relatable to those outside of its narrative? Like, give people a verbal reason to get their listen on.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always think that that the more specific and realistic a story is, the more relatable it is, which is a little bit counterintuitive, I think, because, you know, the more I tell you about something I have experienced and the more details I give you, maybe those are more details that are not true of your life, right? So it could be less relatable, but for some reason I just think people love those details, and people latch on to those details, and maybe if the details don't fit their life, they add their own details that do fit and make it their own in a certain way. You know, so I mean, I hope it's universal in that way. I can't say that's true for someone else. You know, only they can decide if it is or not. But I personally, as a listener, feel drawn to the concrete detail, and I hope that's what these songs give people.
All right. So, what do you like best about the way the new record turned out? After everything is said and done, you know, the album artwork is done, the records are cut and polished, and now it's time to cut the lights off at the studio. Yeah. You know, I think there's a lot that I love about it. We capture a really big drum sound, which is what I wanted, and so, you know, I think it's got some power in that sense. I'm really happy with the vocal arrangements. Most of them we had worked out ahead of time, but, you know, we had enough flexibility to make some decisions when we got to the studio, and I think Mark, the producer, really pushed me to lean into the higher end of my range, which I have been more afraid to do in the past, and I'm really happy he did that, because I think these songs have a lot more power than some of the stuff we had done before, where I was a little more timid.
I think I love the interplay of all the instruments, but we've got a lot more horns on this record than we ever had, and I just get a lot of joy from making music with horns, singing along with a band that's got a horn section. So that again just like gives it a lot of power, and I'm really proud of what all the guitarists did. One of our guys, Eric Johnson, just makes these like really kind of warm, sinewy kind of guitar lines that you almost don't even notice until you start to listen carefully, and they're really beautiful. And Michael DePew, another guitar player, does a lot of like these real percussive kind of melodies that are really different from what Eric does, and I love the way they interact with each other. It's both very rhythmic and percussive, but also like a catchy kind of melody that you'll remember. Steven, my brother, just like he had some surprises for me in here too. Like I was talking about with Wilson earlier. Sometimes when you're rehearsing with a band that big, you just can't hear all the details that are happening and exactly what people are doing. You're able to sort of make sure that everybody is doing something that serves what is called for the dynamic of the song at a particular moment. But sometimes the details can get lost until you actually have a studio recording and something that you can listen carefully with and make decisions about. And my brother, he's sort of our jack of all trades. I mean, we're getting ready to go on tour, and our drummer can't go with us, and so Steven's moving over the drums for that tour. But he played mostly guitar in the record, and again, just like little playful melodies here and there that I wasn't expecting, which was really cool. It's a mixture. I think I'm proud of the mixture of both, like having carefully arranged it all and also being surprised in the studio at what once I had a good ear for what people were actually doing.
Definitely. So we talked about landscape for like some of the new music that's coming out. But how do other outside perspectives influence your music, or do they ever, like with things with politics like Donald Trump and fake news? Like social issues, do they ever influence your music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I feel myself like moving more and more in that direction, actually. But that's not to say that it's new. I mean, on our first record, the first song was about like encountering some teenagers who were panhandling in Santa Rosa, California. This place that just seemed so beautiful. It's wine country, and it just seemed like so wealthy and beautiful. And yet to see kids who were expressing this need, like they didn't have enough money to eat or what have you. It was just really jarring, and it seemed like a metaphor for America to me. That there's all this abundance and yet still people in need. And there's another song on that record about like encountering race as a concept in a way I never had before, because I grew up in New England, and it's not a very diverse place, and so I didn't have to think about being white very much. It just was kind of felt like it wasn't an issue, except for every now and then. And then I moved to North Carolina about 12 years ago, and it felt like there were all these expectations and that, it meant something to be white at that point, and it meant something to be black, and it had all of this sort of baggage that I didn't know, I just didn't understand, and that, there were expectations put on me of how I was supposed to act or not act in certain circumstances, and, so trying to reckon with that, and so, I never felt particularly qualified or well suited to write about a subject like that, but just trying to write from my own experience and try to be honest about my questions and trying to understand. So those kind of things definitely influence it. I've this new batch of songs. Okay, so even like on the record that we're just putting out now, Tolerance Ends, Love Begins. The second song is called Hollywood, and so this is a very personal experience, or it started with a very personal experience, just about like a Hollywood idea, or like the kind of advice you get from glossy like tabloid magazines, and how I felt like that was playing out in my own life. But then the more I thought about it, it seemed like, well, this is this idea of like, I guess I should be more specific. I just had this sense that like what happens in Hollywood, and honestly, I don't even know. I'm not an expert on this by any stretch, but just when I read about coverage of like celebrity romance, celebrity marriages, et cetera, it just always seems like they've all got this exit escape hatch, like they never last. Those relationships never seem to last. It's like it all seems so selfish. Like it always seems like it's just built on sort of people using each other to get ahead. And like I said, I don't know that to be true. This is just my impression. But it's like sort of working through that song, Hollywood, is sort of working through trying to make sense of that. Is there anything more than that? Is that just what people do? Do people do we all just kind of use each other to get our needs met? Is that something to grieve, or is it just the way people are? I think even the like very personal stuff can get political pretty fast, because it starts to go. You start to like analyze what are human beings like, and that is a political question, right? So yeah, I mean, I think a lot. My background too, and the way I made my living and still make part of my living is as a journalist, newspaper writing and some magazine writing. So I actually tend to think about songwriting in that way too, in the sense that like I'm trying to, even though sometimes I might be the subject, my own feelings or my own experience might be the thing that I'm examining as a journalist, but I'm still like trying to get outside it in a certain way. And certainly if I'm looking at people or circumstances outside myself, I think trying to get to the heart of it is a lot of what motivates what I'm doing.
Right. So Jesse, regardless of public opinion, like hit counts and play counts, what would you personally say is the strongest tune you've written to date?
Yeah, that's hard. I feel like I'm the last person to answer that question.
Right, because everything you put out is the strongest tune, right? We all know that, man. You're bad at it.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't want to put it out if I'm not proud of it. But on the other hand, you know, I just think like everyone else is the ones that has to judge it. I just have to try to make it as best I can. But you know, I'll play. I'm gonna play along. I think Deeper Than Skin is probably the catchiest. And I don't know if catchy makes it the best, but I do think it's the catchiest song. And it's cool. That song is a cool song, I think, because it reflects a lot of collaboration. You know, it's my song, it's my melody, but Steven, my brother, wrote the guitar riff that's really prominent. It's got this kind of almost Irish traditional kind of feel to it, but it's done on electric guitar, and you know, and we've got this big drum and bass arrangement. So even though it sort of gestures at a traditional sound, it's not that. You know, it's actually a really like kind of bouncy pop song. And then, you know, my sister Katie sings the lead vocal for most of it as well. So you know, I'm real proud of that one because it probably reflects not only the catchiest song that I probably written, but it's also it was very much a group effort.
So is there any specific thing you can think of in music that you haven't tried yet that you would like to?
Well, I think we find ourselves moving in a more of a classic direction sound-wise than we've ever had. You know, this record is pretty modern, I would say, and we definitely were looking at a lot of modern references, like of Monsters and Men and Arcade Fire, The National, Fleet Foxes. You know, those are all like 20th century. Those all have made their name in the 21st century. But you know, I mean, most of my deepest influences go back to folk rock and pop of the like late 60s and early 70s. So that's there too. But I think what's new is that I'm finding a lot of inspiration in like a jazzier kind of pop. I think doing this sing-along stuff, you know, I had to dig into like American songbook kind of stuff. You know, stuff that Louis Armstrong did or Sinatra, and I've just been like really intrigued by the chord structures of all that stuff, which is more complicated than a lot of music that's made today. And I just I find it real compelling. And you know, I think that our dad is a musician, and we kind of grew up hearing him play, and that's where the folk rock comes from, and a lot of the British invasion kind of influences. But you know, I've found myself getting into like Sam Cooke and Curtis Mayfield, a lot of soul kind of stuff, and I don't feel particularly well suited to make that kind of music, but I'm intrigued by it, and so that's something we're kind of experimenting with now. And you know, I don't know where we'll end up. I don't know if it'll work, but it's definitely new territory, and I feel inspired by that music. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. And what's got you all pumped up and excited and spreading the word about your music right in the here and now these days?
Well, you know, I mean, the record's like 10 days old maybe, and so, you know, we're just hoping that people enjoy it and want to keep listening to it. and we're beyond out on the road, so we're playing a lot, and that's why we do it, to share it with people. So the fact that we're getting to do that, I get a lot of energy from the creative process, and so that's going on at the same time. We're trying to create new music and maybe give people a little taste of what's coming down the road, but we're just trying to really perform now these songs. We know them like the back of our hand now, and we just want to try to share with people the joy and energy that we got from making them, creating them in the first place, and invite people into that, at these shows, and or however they enter into it, whether it's online or recording somewhere, or we made vinyl. We're really excited about that too. We put this record on vinyl, and that's the first record we put on vinyl. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's super exciting. I'm a writer. That's I come at music as a writer fundamentally, and so I'm really excited because we've never had enough money to put lyric inserts into the CDs that we produced, and so but see with the vinyl, there's all this real estate on the cover because it's big, so we put all the lyrics on the back of the cover, and the cover's awesome, by the way. It's a cartoon drawing by our friend Adam Neubauer, who's from DC, and it's just it just incorporates all these elements of imagery from the songs. So that's pretty cool. It's got this giant centerpiece statue drawing of this sculpture from Italy called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, and it's an image of Saint Teresa of Avila's medieval mystic, and she's the inspiration for one of the songs, "Goes to My Bed." So Adam he looked at a photo online of this sculpture that's in Italy, and then kind of drew it for the cartoon. So it looks awesome. I'm really stoked about that.
Okay. So I'll leave this question as wide open as I can for you. What's the best advice you would have for someone out there, some singer-songwriter such as yourself, that's truly looking to find their voice? How would you suggest they discover that strong connection to their own signature vocal sound?
Oh yeah. Well, gosh, you just got to do it, and be, don't be afraid of making mistakes. And try things on. Try a lot. Yeah, I think. Yeah, Katie and I, my sister and I, talk about this a lot. I think a lot of times a band is sort of limited by what the vocalist can do. And I think that's good. Any singer should figure out what are they really good at. Some people, I've always wanted to have a good falsetto. I think some singers have this great falsetto. I just don't. I'm working to try to develop it, but it's not natural, and I don't know that I'll ever have it in a way that I really want to use it, because it's just not natural the way it is for some people. I have a big range, so I can do this. I don't know if you know the National, but Matt Berninger's got this low baritone, and I can do that. But and then I can jump the octave and sing a more traditional pop tenor kind of range. But how to use that? I'm still figuring it out. Do you just find the center of your range and emphasize that, or how much do you use the fullness of your range? And it may be different. There may be some songs where you need to use a bigger part of your range, but you might just have to try things, and you might just have to have regrets. I mean, you know, there are things that we did on the first record where I think I really pushed myself on the higher end of my range, and I'm not sure I would have done it again in that key, say. So you just gotta try and learn and be okay with the process, and be okay even with looking back on something that you did and say, oh, you know, I'd do that differently today. But that's okay. I mean, in some ways, like, oh gosh, you know, how many records do you make in your life? Do you want to actually look at one and say, oh, I wish I done that differently? But on the other hand, you know, how do you grow? How do you grow if you don't do things that you learn from? You know, you have to do that, and you can't let it. You can't be afraid to make mistakes, I guess that's the best advice I can give. Just try things, see how they work, see how people respond to them, and, you know, find your center, whatever it is.
Yes, sir. Makes a lot of sense. All right, so after the music break, it'll be time for our usual tradition. It is called the Hot Seat, and our fans love this part of the segment. And of course, along with the actual interview, we hear Jesse laughing. But the audience gets to hear either some vocals, a poem, written word, freestyle rap, you know, recite lyrics, jokes, stories, live instruments, or whatever they want to do from our special guest. Well, you never know what these creative minds and vessels will produce in the spotlight. And tonight we'll find out if Jesse have what it takes to be put on the spot, a test of his true artistry, and maybe even some hidden talents. So let's cut to some music. We have Pinkerton-Raid, Ghost in My Bed. that was Pinkerton-Raid, Ghost in My Bed. All right, Jesse, you are in the hot seat. What do you have for us?
All right, well, I've been playing with this new song, and there's this lyric that I can't shake, but it's also like pretty aggressively political in a way that I'm mostly terrifies me. So I'm gonna put it out there and see what you think. So this would be the first line of a song. It goes like this. I'm not gonna sing it. My voice is real tired tonight, but I'll just tell you. In a house that needs a washing, in white washing town, they're spraying golden showers on Lady Freedom's crown. So what do you think?
One more time.
In a house that needs a washing, in white washing town, they're spraying golden showers on Lady Freedom's crown.
Okay. Very clever.
Yeah, so the thing is, the rest of the song, I'm not sure is going to be funny, and that seems funny. And so I'm not sure if I'm trying to make people laugh or like actually reckon with the gravity of the situation that we have upon us. So I don't know.
Yeah, you may be inciting some riots there, or maybe the theme song to a riot that's about to kick off. But,
yeah, right.
But I see that you want to at least cite some response, get some type of emotion out of it, whether they agree or they find it funny or it makes them mad.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's like the beginning of a rallying cry for people who already are feeling like I am about what's happening in Washington, or, I mean, as a songwriter, I think I want to be more inviting than that, and try to create a conversation among different kinds of people who think differently. But I'm also somewhat pessimistic about whether that's even possible, and whether you have to just serve a sort of core audience.
Right.
So I don't know. I need some advice. I'm trying to figure it out.
All right. And this is my last question for you. Speaking on that, like, and this is my opinion, Americans are like super sensitive these days, and they can get riled up over any and everything. Do you find that as a fine line to tread up on as an artist? I mean, I know you probably have core values like most of us do, but sometimes you have to let it out. Or in my case, since I am in media, I don't necessarily post my views unless somebody asks me to, because of the sensitivity of my listeners. Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in the same boat in a sense, because I do a lot of reporting and fact-based reporting, and so I'm hesitant, like a lot of people trained as journalists, to really say anything too extreme. You want to say things that you can back up, that you can prove to be true, and I don't want to sacrifice the credibility that comes with that, just to like share something that I may be feeling or thinking. But I do think that some of that honesty and authenticity is what people want out of music, and they need out of music. I need it for the music that I listen to. So I think it's a hard balance, and that's why I look at it like, do I I think that that whole idea of like golden showers on Lady Freedom's crown. You know, that's what I see happening. And that may be actually a colorful way of describing something, but that is actually objectively true. You know, it's not necessarily like an ideological position as much as it's calling attention to, like, it seems as though our respect for freedoms, like the freedom to immigrate to this country, or the freedom to speak freely, the freedom of the press, it seems like those things are under assault. And I don't necessarily know that is an ideological, political position that I'm articulating. You know, it seems like objectively that's true. But because we're so divided, and like you say, we're so sensitive, there are people who actually think that when the president says that, you know, the Washington Post traffics in fake news, that somehow that's a credible statement, and that we shouldn't trust the Washington Post, or we shouldn't trust the New York Times, or, you know, and so that's all very disorienting. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I find this balance of being authentic and but also being careful and with words and kind to people that I may disagree with. But it seems like that the line to balance that on is moving. If somehow the public discourse has made it credible to say that a publication, an esteemed publication like the Washington Post, is somehow not trustworthy, then I don't know. I think a lot of us are just sort of lost and disoriented about, well, then what is it that we're trying to balance? You know, if we what we thought we could trust as being true is, if that's under assault, then, you know, how could we find a balance? So I don't know. I don't have good answers. I'm trying to figure it out.
All right, cool deal. So, guys, I just purchased the album Tolerance Ends, Love Begins.
Thank you.
The complete album on Amazon, which I love so much. Yeah, Amazon Prime. Yeah. Let me stop. They're not endorsing me, so. But I do love Amazon and their services. So yeah, I got the album. I will be jamming this tonight as what am I doing tonight? Yeah, a few repairs and editing this show so we can get it out to you guys as soon as possible. So I encourage you guys to do the same thing. If you're lost, follow Dini. He knows the way. So let's get into the end of the show here. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. Make sure you check out, what's the website, Jesse James?
We're at pinkerton-raid.com.
Yes, check it out. Check them out. Make sure you follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud, as I have been doing, stalking them for the last 2 weeks. Like, that's what us journalists do, right?
That's right.
So all episodes are available for free download. You can grab it from our server over at Spreaker.com/only1media group, over at iTunes, our podcast addict, 24/7, 365 days of year that you can put us in your ear hole, here's around your pocket, purse, man purse, backpack, laptop, tablet, phone. How cool is that? Feel free to download. Sharing is caring, and bootlegging is definitely encouraged. And that goes for every single episode that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music or send something for us to play, make sure you email it to us at theradio@only1mediagroup.com. Here's a little note. Make sure you tag your name and song title, because track one, I have no idea who you are or what the song is called. So I'll just say, from nobody, track one. You don't want that. All right. And here's my disclaimer. We are genre-free. We do not judge. We absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay, but facts alone. And actually, you can scratch all of that, because all of our opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show, just something you have to deal with. Not just kidding. On behalf of myself, dini-mussolini, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word. Also, another special thanks to our guest, Jesse James from the band Pinkerton-Raid, for joining us tonight. And we stepped our game up just for you guys and our guests to make sure that they have the best experience here on our show. You never know. Dini just may end up on one of their songs. I do it all, my friends. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace and have a great night.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. This is a Seventh Sign Regime Rebirth Worldwide Syndicate exclusive.
Hey, yo, give me a beatbox. It doesn't even have to be something complicated. It just has to be something smooth and simple. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's take a break for a minute. What I say on the rhythm is amazing, admit it. The places I've been in couldn't trace them in denims. The face in the mirror is a jovial one. Work hard, not broke, to suppose in the bum. Compose with a drum like a beat to the air. Camille isn't here cause he beats her to tears. Never took a break, skipped school but readily to book a date. A friend to all is a friend to none. The same one who picked a fight and forgot to run. The one who impregnated Jessica. Ignored the phone calls, thought no less of her. Hello. As a matter of fact, the fact of the matter is, MLK ain't the only one who had a wish. I mean, had a dream. Lyrics I'm cramming them fabulous, acting the fool in front of your manager. Up in the jail cell, stubborn to make bail. Jermaine, your aim, take money at bake sales, only to get arrested, try to survive. A dream deferred. A dream deferred. A dream deferred. Yo, turn my mic up. Police locked you up and now you're in jail? Huh. Yeah. On the canteen, satellite seem too high. You might trying to vanish off scene. Banish my dreams, pick a book up instead of bag your tight jeans. Enough of the cursing, cause we up in the church, son. Jesus died like it was nothing to murk him. Got a house built sitting on a bed of acres. Letterman, David, better yet, hatred. Quit the belly aching, Snooki been a statement. Girls do anything for nookie cooking, ain't it? Yeah, with vaginal diseases, herpes, AIDS, stamina depletion. Muammar Gaddafi and havoc over in Libya. Sing you a couple of words, whether plural or singular, in a world of oblivion. Kids having kids on affordable rent, water and not a cup to go sip it in. Ridiculous, my nigga this, my nigga that. Big-headed, egotistical, need you a bigger hat. Read you a book at an education and kick it back. Gas hiked it, I never seen a price that high up. Ha! Is your dream deferred? Subscribe. Or just keep following the system. Or just keep following the system. I dare you to. I'm out of here.
Do you have social media? Keep up via twitter.com/thisisgodson, facebook.com/godsonofficial, and thisisgodson.blogspot.com. Be sure to slap that subscribe button.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds, of the duo No Longer the Hero. Co-hosted by the Vigilantes Banditti. Call in to join the mix. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.